This is a collection of covers on the American helmets, both starting with the steel pot and later on moving to the Kevlar PASGT and the Mich. Okay, in 1941 or so, the United States started to develop the famous steel pot, the M1 helmet, which became the iconic American helmet in World War II, Korea, and in Vietnam. As issued originally, it was kind of smooth, and that was the problem. At Guadalcanal, when the Marines were the first ones to use it in combat, when it got wet, moonlight tended to reflect off of it. It tended to give away your position. So that was not a good thing for your helmet. So they started thinking about covers for helmets. One of the first covers was this Mosquito Net cover, and I have it tucked inside. But there's little strings and things, and you can let it hang down a little bit and tie it under your neck and stuff like that. It didn't prove popular, but yet it stayed in the system, as I'll show you, as late as Vietnam, where in theory it was issued, but I can't get any pictures of anybody actually wearing it, okay? But it's this very thin mosquito netting, and sometimes they took these off of parachutes and cut them up and did a similar thing. All right. The Marine Corps, after Guadalcanal and the shiny helmets in the rain, went to a reversible cover, which became the iconic symbol of the U.S. Marines in World War II and Korea. And for those of you who are fans of early TV, Sergeant Saunders on Combat. All right. So it was green side or it was tan side. It was reversible. And this is what Marines wore in the Pacific after Guadalcanal. Guadalcanal, plain ordinary shiny helmet, all right? The Army also continued with shiny helmets in the Pacific, but in North Africa, they started to think they needed a way to break up the shine. And you'll find different nets. This one here is the 1/4 inch netting, and you could put stuff in it, but it cut down on the shine. Later on, some of them borrowed British helmets covers, which are these 1/8 of an inch type covers, and they became later on fairly standard. Sometimes guys would improvise, and they would take a camouflage net that was used to cover your artillery pieces and stuff and just drape it over a helmet and use it to cover things. Now, by time Korea rolled along, guys would improvise. This is from a sandbag. You would take a sandbag, cut a big piece of burlap, shape it around your helmet, wet it down, make it nice and smooth, and you got some degree of camouflage on your helmet. They then came out with a cloth green cover, and I don't have one here. We refer to it as the elusive green helmet cover. When I was a young collector, my surplus store had a whole box of them, and every one had rust stains on it, so I didn't buy it. Now I regret it because I can't find them. People referred to it as the elusive olive drab cover. What they did do is make the cover in a reversible camouflage pattern, and this is what I was issued, and this was Vietnam era. You'll see the green, and this is the other flip side, okay? Green side or tan side. And this was the helmet you see guys wearing in Vietnam. Now, during that time, they also came out with this item, which I bought at the clothing sales store back in around 1970, and it was listed in all the manuals. It's a camouflage cover that's a mosquito net, okay? And it even still has the original directions and price tag from the clothing sales store, okay? Insect net head, okay? And it was never, still has a price tag on it, how to remove it quickly. Let's see, it's in the clothing sales store, $4.95, all right? But you don't see pictures of guys actually wearing it. But it was listed in the Army manuals, and there's one scene where they show guys putting it on the boonie cap and bringing it down to cover their face. But it also served the purpose of disguising the helmet, preventing it from shine. Now, when the Army went away after Vietnam to the battle dress uniform, they started to make helmet covers that would blend in with the battle dress. And I've got two examples here. They're slightly different in their color. And that was another thing. For a while there, in the late 70s, early 80s, if you went into a supply room and drew a helmet cover, it might not be like the one of the guy next to you. They must have had 3 or 4 or 5 sub-manufacturers, and each one seemed to make it a little different. And you can see the shade of green here as compared to the shade of green there. And these are both brand new helmet covers. Neither one was, worn out in the field and wasn't sun bleached or whatever. But the BDU uniform and a helmet cover for the M1 steel pot. And now we're going to go over to the next generation of helmets, which is, of course, the Kevlars. All right. The first helmet here, was known as the PASGT, which I think it stood for Protective Armor Support Ground Troop, something like that. And this helmet was pretty good, camouflage cover. And when they went to Grenada, they ran into a public relations problem. People noticed the design of the American helmet, and it reminded them of certain people from the 1940s that wore helmets like this. So all of a sudden, there was this panic. We don't want American soldiers looking like Nazi stormtroopers. So the word went out, and they took apart camouflage netting, which is Mylar, infrared defeating, theoretically, and they started draping it and letting it hang down. And if you look at soldiers at Grenada, particularly airborne, a lot of their helmets look kind of sloppy because they wanted to break up the Nazi look. So this was very common as an accessory. People would tuck this in on their helmets, and they hang down in front, back, whatever, to disguise the shape. By the time Desert Storm rolled along, people had gotten used to that shape. Now over here is what I call the Desert Storm chocolate chip design. Now they were also worn before then by, and I'll pull out this fag here, the multinational force and observers on the Sinai. And when I was stationed at Fort Bragg, you would often find chocolate chip uniforms with this patch. But they would take the patch off before they sold it to you, and then they'd sell you the patch, okay? So that was the chocolate chip, as we call it. When they got to the desert and Desert Storm, there was complaints that the chocolate chip had too much brown in it. So they developed what they call the 3-color camouflage pattern, and that's what this is. But that's still a PASGT helmet, only now it has more subdued colors. Next to it is a very unusual one, very few people ever see them. That is the chemical protective cover for your helmet. If you were in what's called a MOPP suit, M-O-P-P, Mission-Oriented Protected Posture, or your chemical suit, CPOGs, Chemical Protective Outer Garment, you needed to protect your helmet from chemicals like mustard gas, phosgene, and other neat things that are out there. So they developed basically an impenetrable cover, and that's what this is. Now, if you were going to be in the Arctic, they developed a camouflage cover, and what I'm going to do, so people think I didn't make this up, this is the stock number, everything else. This is a real camouflage white cover. The only reason it's not on a helmet is I don't own a small or extra small helmet in my collection. But it's, again, it's white, that's all it is. It's a nice white cover, and it doesn't have the little slits that you find on all the other covers, because they really don't expect you to start taking branches and leaves and everything else and sticking them into your helmet. The white helmet by itself should be enough protection. All right? Now, starting around the 1990s, the Marine Corps wanted to be different. They were, before then, they were wearing the same uniform as the Army, the BDU, battle dress uniform. But the Marines wanted to go to a digital design, so they needed a digital design camouflage cover for their helmets. Green side, tan version. Okay, the green version, now it's called the winter version and the summer version. Marines, when we go to daylight, when we are under standard time, they wear this. When we go to daylight savings, they wear this. The next 3 helmets look similar to the PASGT, but they're what's called the Mich Helmet, or the Advanced Combat Helmet. They trimmed away some of the Kevlar. You say, well, that's less protection. They felt they were losing too much in the way of hearing by having too much covering your ears. So this first helmet, which is all this cushioning inside, much better helmet, okay, protection, versus the old PASGT, or Kevlar as we used to call it, where your head could take a nice concussion. This is designed to prevent concussion. This is in the famous Army camouflage uniform. which everybody hated and which is being phased out. The next one is the same helmet, but now it is fixed up with the Desert 3-piece. And the last helmet is, I'm going to show you up here, this little black dot, which I can cover up, or I can expose, permits a helicopter to tell friendly from enemy forces. It's an infrared, basically, reflector. And the Army combat uniform has the same thing on its sleeves that can be opened up or covered up depending on the mission. But it's designed to prevent what we call friendly fire, or blue on blue fire. Now, it's got straps in the back to hold this on. That's your goggles. So they got little loops in the back, and you can have your goggles convenient in the pack if you need them. But this is, again, it's got all the cushioning, but it's in the multicam design, which is what's worn in Afghanistan and in Iraq. Now, the new pattern, I don't have it yet, is called OCP, Operational Camouflage Pattern. Is it OCP? Operational. I think it's Operational Camouflage Pattern. It's very similar to multicam, but there's a difference legally between paying royalties to the multicam company and not paying royalties to the multicam company. So you will see helmets in the future looking more like this. Now, on the Marines, my guess is you're going to see this and this on Marine helmets. Now, I know on the Marine uniform, they've worked in the Marine Corps symbol, the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, but I have not found any covers that have that. I don't know why that's missing on the covers. But we see here a selection of covers over the years on American helmets, designed to help camouflage and prevent it from shining and giving away your position, as well as protecting you.
It was made around 1916, right? It was used, and then
something very interesting about this rifle that you told me.
Yeah, this one was rebarreled in July '41, and it has